All right, so welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about media and music all rolled into one here. This I figured would go over on the Media Observer channel. So if you're confused, try being me, right? I can upload videos and sometimes I go to the wrong channel. Hence, that's why, I should rebrand again, right? No, I'm not doing that. Um, but I could, but I'm not going to. Just to freak some people out who think I've rebranded too much. And yeah, I definitely have. Stevie Van Zant used to be part of Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band. Not sure if he's still in the E Street Band. Haven't really followed him for a very long time. But apparently he's having a PTSD reaction because we're not doing, imagine having a PTSD reaction because our country isn't doing more to instigate war. That's basically what this is about. This article, which is kind of, I don't know, it's a little bit hard to follow, but it says the war between Russia and Ukraine that started in February of 2022 still continues. Russia continues to build up its military forces in eastern Ukraine. Most governments are united in support of Ukraine nowadays to provide economic, military, and humanitarian assistance to the country. The issue has generated much debate in America, as it has also done in other countries. How the U.S. should respond to the invasion has been a widely discussed topic. America has provided support for Ukraine in various matters, so far as most countries have done, but whether the country has provided the right amount of support to Ukraine is still a question of debate. Some think that the U.S. should be providing more support to Ukraine, while others say it is providing too much support. Yeah, almost $14 billion in monetary support, and then weapons. Yeah, we're just giving weapons to Ukraine. I don't think that's part of the financial support whatsoever. And who knows how much value all of these weapons have. But this guy, Stevie Van Zant, goes on to Twitter and he says, I swear I'm getting PTSD from this. This is deeply depressing down to my soul. I have been criticizing our country from a patriotic point of view my whole adult life for the mistakes we have made. But this is far the worst. I will never again feel the same way about my country. Okay, so all the mistakes we made in Vietnam, this guy obviously lived through the Vietnam era. He's, I think, of that age. And he obviously probably had difficulties, right, with that. See, what's weird is all the people he used to be against U.S. intervention, because that would be U.S. intervention, because we've got conflicts all over the world. We've got Yemen, which has been basically a genocide for a number of years. And it doesn't seem our response to Yemen is proportional as it is to Ukraine. Why is our response to Ukraine so out of whack compared to Yemen or Somalia or, I don't know, or what we did in Afghanistan, what we did in Iraq? I mean, we just went into Iraq and said, hey, this is what we're doing. And then we branded all Muslim people as bad. Even today, we're still talking about that. How did you hear that they were a Muslim? Can I tell you that not all Muslims are bad people? That there is a very, very narrow sect of that particular religious faith that seems to be doing most of the bad stuff. And again, it's very small, but we branded it. And I'm a Christian, by the way. I'm just telling you the truth here. It's difficult for some people because as soon as they hear Muslim, they think infidel, right? And that was our government that did that. We ramped up all of that hatred for Muslims when the real issue was we wanted to go in there and instigate a war. Now, in the case of Ukraine is getting its butt kicked, but I heard this morning that supposedly a Russian ship sank, one Russian ship. Okay. And I'm not saying that that's good news for Russia. It's really bad news. I'm sure that ship cost them, billions of dollars or whatever, at least hundreds of millions. So the media has essentially just said, hey, every time Russia has a problem, we're going to outline that problem. And nobody's really talking about what's been going on in Ukraine for the last 8 years in the Donbass region. And nobody brings it up. Nobody seems to want to. Again, it's kind of like the health stuff. Nobody has any curiosity as to what might be going wrong. They don't care. Or if it exists, they're just going to omit it. And I think that's the biggest problem with the mainstream media today is they omit. And then they find things to report on that are very small, like this Russian ship sinking. And then they tell the world, okay, see, they're on the ropes. They're desperate. They don't have any more ships. They don't have, and granted, they probably don't have a lot of ships, at least in that region. I mean, Russia is a big, big country. So I'm sure they have military hardware positioned in certain areas. And I'm sure they weren't looking to get involved in a long-term conflict. That's what this is, though. This is, we're going to wear the Russians down. And then, we don't really care how long it takes because war helps everybody. War helps our economy. War helps the president, even though, again, this war isn't helping this current president. In fact, I think it's hurting him. This guy, Stevie Van Zant, he's way out of touch with what most Americans believe. Now, you may be all like, yeah, we should support Ukraine. There are people out there that, they blindly support Ukraine. But if you ask them, okay, should we support like homeless veterans? We'll use Stevie Van Zant's term here, homeless veterans that have PTSD. Should we support them before we send $13 billion plus to Ukraine? And I think the answer from most normal people is, oh gosh, yeah, our veterans are being treated like crap. We should be helping the veterans. They shouldn't be homeless. They served our country. They deserve better, right? Well, and see, this is the war machine that Stevie Van Zant doesn't understand that we're going to crank up again, because he's basically saying here is, how come we're not stopping this? That's what he's saying. How come the United States is not stopping this? Because we could stop it. And we're watching, he retweeted this Cookie Queen person who says here, so frustrating. It's like watching a person getting repeatedly stabbed and raped and just watching it happen and saying, oh, that's wrong, but not getting involved to stop it. See, the founding fathers of this country, whether you like them or not, believed that we shouldn't be involved in foreign entanglements. This is a conflict on the other side of the planet. And I know logistically we are right there, though. We are set up in that area, which is interesting, isn't it? That we've got military bases and we've got biolabs in Ukraine and we've got all this infrastructure there. By the way, those biolabs, everybody should just worry that, the Russians are going to get all of that information and then use their propaganda to tell what's been happening in those biolabs, which I'm sure is just real, reputable, great research that we should all be proud of, and we should be happy our tax dollars, again, as the media doesn't talk about it incessantly around the clock. How come you don't have any concern about the people in Yemen? How about all of these South American countries that our government has destabilized? And there are a lot of those people that are heading north. So our foreign policy has created a problem at our southern border. In addition to the fact that we don't have a southern border, really, we are just allowing people to walk over, which even all of my libertarian enzymes can't wrap themselves around the idea of just leaving the southern border wide open. It is a crisis. And by the way, if we're going to take care of a border, rather than worrying about the border between Russia and Ukraine, we ought to be kind of concerned about this. What is it? Chapter 42, whatever that piece of legislation is, where it says that the immigrants can't come here because of COVID. Well, they're lifting that in May, and I think Texas and maybe Arizona are gearing up themselves for what's coming, but the United States government does not care. But they really do care about Ukraine. They think this is really the battle that we need to pick. And some people think that, hey, we're not battling enough. How is it, too, that you can't notice what's happening on the southern border, but you can notice what's happening in Ukraine? It's what they want you to know and what they want you to see. Stevie Van Zant, for better or worse, is a guy who just believes what he's told by NBC News, which is the big tragedy of our time, because NBC News, I guarantee you, they have people who contact them every single day from inside the government telling them what to report on and telling them where to steer the narrative. Please steer the narrative this way. That's why when Trump got elected, it was such a disruption, because he was not part of that. But people around him were, and that's the problem with Trump. And it might be the problem with just about everybody, unless you bring in a president, a rogue president, with people from business and outside of any connection to the Pentagon or the government, and then you basically audit the entire organization and you kick everybody out. That's what you have to do. You have to basically start over. I mean, you want to call it a revolution, that would be a revolution, and I would be 100% for that. And people like Stevie Van Zant would freak out. They'd be like, okay, what's happening to our democracy? This is the thing that they're all saying. What's happening to our democracy? We don't have a democracy right now because we don't have free speech. We don't have informed consent. We don't have all the knowledge that we need to make a decent decision. So your idea of democracy is incomplete, because, again, this is why Elon Musk is trying, I think he's trying to save actual democracy. And I don't know why he's doing it, other than the fact that maybe he sees that you can't have a functioning democracy without freedom of information and freedom of speech. That's what Twitter was supposed to be. That's what Facebook kind of was. Although Facebook is just some kind of like, hey, I'm your friend, friend me, and we can talk friendly stuff, and now it's, hey, you've been put into Facebook jail because you misspoke. We don't talk about Ukraine and the Donbass region. We don't talk about that here on Facebook. And even Twitter yesterday or the day before came out with standards, as well as YouTube came out with standards that you cannot glorify something happening that goes against the narrative. You cannot blame certain things on the Ukrainians. You can't blame them for any of that. It's not them. They're not doing it. They've done nothing wrong. Okay. Well, to me, that doesn't sound very fair. That doesn't sound like it's informed consent. And this one little tweet here exposes what's wrong with the elite class in this country, who act like lemmings, and then they try to convince all the underlings. Here's what a working class guy would say. You know what? I don't know that much about what's going on over there. It sounds bad. It sounds maybe like Russia invaded and some bad stuff is going on. But, I'm trying to put gas in my car. I'm trying to keep my job and not be locked down again. I've been told that I have to do X, Y, and Z in order to keep that job, which is weird because never in my life have I been forced to do something against my will in order to continue working. This is weird. I think our country needs to fix those problems. And that's why people are moving to places like Florida and Texas and Alabama and anywhere where people are kind of normal. I'm just throwing it out there like that. They're kind of normal. They just want to be left alone. They want to worship the God of their choosing, which means that they don't buy into this new secular humanism that has basically tried to take over our education system and everything else, where people don't acknowledge that other people might not believe the same things. And again, this goes back to informed consent. And, we used to talk about pluralism, but we don't have pluralism anymore. We have groupthink now, which is far different from pluralism. If you wanted pluralism where people get along, then you would just mind your own business and let those people do what they want to do, so long as they're not hurting anybody. This is the non-aggression principle, something libertarians talk about a lot, right? If you don't want to participate in something, that doesn't mean you're endorsing the thing that everybody is telling you to endorse and talk about. Like if I decide that I'm not going to put a little icon or a little emoji next to my profile picture, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean, you got rock stars, by the way, saying, look, you need to get involved. Like it was a Dee Snider telling Alice Cooper, you need to get involved. And Alice Cooper's like, look, this is politics. I'm a musician. People don't want my opinion on this stuff. And I'm not going to throw any support behind anything because it's just not what I do. And at that point, you're already a leper. You're already an outcast, even though you're just trying to stay neutral and mind your own business. That's not enough. We need to all be outraged. No, I don't need to be outraged. Stevie Van Zant says he's getting PTSD from this, right? So turn off the damn TV for a while, Stevie. Turn it off. Do something else with your time. How about you write some music, some good music to help people get away from this crap? But because we're this global community where everybody has to be singing from the same hymnal, and all those other countries, they talk about here how all the countries, in this article, all the countries are pretty much in agreement. Really? China isn't. India isn't. Brazil isn't. I bet you Hungary isn't after their recent election. So, and there are others, people just aren't talking about it. Maybe they're insignificant countries. But a lot of people would like to keep, energy flowing into their country so they can heat their homes or cool their homes, or, have a decent supply of bread coming in because, grain and fertilizer now are going to be in demand. And most likely the third world is going to get destroyed. They already got destroyed over the past 2 years. Nobody's talking about it. You can look up articles on this, and it's staggering how many people are starving to death in the third world because, again, all of the bread baskets around the world are being shut down for one reason or another, and it's very stealth. But it has to do with this whole, hey, great reset, 2030, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And we got to get there. And this is how we get there, is we call a few people out, the desperate third world. We don't have to worry about that anymore if there's nobody living there. Yeah, this is all of what our government and other governments have been promoting. And, the people down the line, these celebrities, Stevie Van Zant, I hate to say this, especially on the other channel, I might be more popular than Stevie Van Zant. I'm just saying. Yeah, they probably know him more than me, but who's going to be looked? And I'm not saying this to boast. I'm just saying Stevie Van Zant belongs to an old guard, and a lot of these people who used to be against war and understand what we did was wrong in Vietnam, they can't get their head around the fact that here we go again. Here we go again. And this is set up, by the way, for a long-term intervention, which will bankrupt everybody involved. It's going to bankrupt and destroy the entire country of Ukraine. Ukraine will be flattened, eastern and western parts gone. And then Russia will spend a lot of money and spill a lot of blood trying to do what they think is right, which is, in their words, demilitarize and denazify. And I don't have a problem with that personally. I don't. I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh. No, if these people are truly part of that old school strain of Nazism, then I can kind of see their point. I don't like war. I hate war. We shouldn't be promoting war, and we shouldn't be saying, oh, it's so frustrating. It's like watching a person get repeatedly stabbed. Well, keep in mind that the way our media is reporting it is that Russia is on the ropes. Russia's on the ropes. They're about to fall. So all we need to do is send more money, send more weapons, get more people involved, get your friends to raise awareness on whatever social media platform they have, and then we'll be victorious and this will be over. How about one last thing here? How about diplomacy? How about real diplomacy? Because Moscow has signaled over and over again that here are the demands that we want. And they're not hard. They're easy. They're really easy demands. And nobody here in the West is talking about it. They're just ignoring it. It's crazy. And the solution, instead of doing negotiations, because again, we don't negotiate with a crazy dictator, right? We don't negotiate, except if it's Venezuela or if it's somewhere else that, we want the natural resources. Yeah, we might negotiate. We might negotiate with the Taliban. Remember that one? The Taliban, they're part of what's happening. We want the Taliban to take care of Afghanistan. Okay. I mean, this is mind-blowing how we are just constantly in double standard world, 180 degree-ism, as I like to call it. So in any event, Stevie Van Zant showing that, again, he's part of the cabal of so-called celebrities who just can't wrap his brain around the fact that promoting war is going to lead to violence, and more death, and it will go on for years. And my hunch is this is what our government and the Pentagon and all the insiders and all of that industrial complex, whether it's media or it's any medical industrial complex, I didn't talk about them, but typically people talk about military industrial complex. But I think it's one giant complex, like in a wheel with all kinds of spokes that go out, and you just, you grab on a spoke and you're part of it. And this guy is in the entertainment business. So that's another spoke on the wheel, which just connects to, again, the military industrial complex. And whatever they want, they kind of get, no matter who the president is. That's why Trump failed in a lot of ways, because Trump went in there thinking that he was going to just be a bull in a china shop. But what they did was they controlled him once he got into that china shop. And they said, no, presidents don't do this. No, just go and make a speech, talk about whatever issue is important to you, but don't get in our business here. Because as Chuck Schumer said, we got like 7 ways to Sunday to stop you from what you're doing. You just don't go against the CIA or the FBI or Homeland Security or any of these other crazy institutions. Our government really needs to be decentralized, and power needs to just go right back to local communities, to states. Let the states figure out what they're going to do. And we should not participate. We should not be giving our tax money to institutions that want to promote war and sell weapons to other countries, or just to give flat out big sums of money, like $13.8 billion thus far. And I guarantee you that number is only going to go up. So that's my video on little Stevie Van Zant, who apparently, doesn't get it, but it's not surprising. It's actually par for the course here. Thanks for watching, folks. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications on new videos, and Patreon, just $1 a month if you want to support the channel, and I will see you soon.